chapter of Gather Together, Grow Together. And we provide transportation, affordable transportation.
All right, all right, all right. This is the most human hour of your week. I think I got it right this time for the first time. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. Please forgive me. I'm just getting over COVID and my cough seems to be pretty bad right now, but I really hope that you enjoyed that quick montage of Stone Soup. First annual Stone Soup, I might say. Hit the horn for that. Such a fantastic event. Um, you know, the awards, and Mark will talk a little bit about it because I want to ask him some questions now that he's seen it. He hasn't seen this, so this is a surprise for him. But just really powerful award event or recognition event, right? It's not an award event. And just important. And watching back the video, I see myself handing out business cards, so I'm making connections, and that's what it's all about, right? So it's awesome to be able to see that and to take action on that. So with no further ado, let me go ahead and bring out our illustrious co-host with the most, the man who has the plan, the man who's here when I am not, but keeps the streak alive, Mr. Olympia himself, Mark Boatwright Frost, everyone.
Hey.
How are you doing? I think you deserve an applause because, rain or shine, you make it. But I have just been getting beat down with this sickness.
Yeah, I know. And sometimes it's not easy. So I apologize for the short shows. But I get said what needs to be said. And that's the best anyone can do.
So you're here. I want to start off. You haven't seen that. What are your initial thoughts? I tried to put some good picks in there.
Relief. My original thoughts were relief because you said you had a picture of me dancing you were going to show. And I did not see it. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, I'll save that one for another time. That will be unveiled at a time that you don't know it's coming.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
What else did you feel from that?
It was kind of like, wow, it really happened. So much of what I do, actually, the majority of what I do, I finish it and I can't remember having done it because I'm in the middle of it. I get it done. I say what I need to say. And then I may look at something I wrote or something I did 6 months later and says, who did this? Then I realize I wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
It's this weird dichotomy where I don't actually remember being present in the moment doing that.
And that's why it's so important to document it and capture it, right?
Yeah.
I would say my only regret was we did not take Resilient Ecosystems group photo, and I wasn't able to capture Crystal, Terry, and Matt Moore. There is some footage of them, and I've got to find the pictures of the displays. Oh, hey, it's working today. I have to find the pictures of the displays in the back, but it also would have been nice. We just didn't have time to have each person with the display to discuss their display and do that teaching opportunity. So maybe that's an addendum that we can add on. But
we'll have it set up to do more of that next year.
Yeah. But outside of that, it was great. It felt good doing the editing and watching the pictures. You saw Lisa and Martitha and many of the others, how touched and moved they were, working with, comforting Sarah as much as we can with, the issues with cups, pups, and cones. Just really great event.
It was. And another moment where I just lost my thought. I just wanted to do a shout out to the other people who were there besides our team, who were dealing with soil health, who were dealing with renewable energy, who were dealing with water.
Talk about it.
But also we had Division of Vocational Rehabilitation there. Mm-hmm. And I worked with them many years ago. I did a lot of consulting with them. And I ended up walking away from them and a fairly large paycheck because they were not doing their job.
Mm.
Well, someone did the wake up call and poured a gallon of coffee over someone's head, and the new DVR is amazing.
Wow.
They are just they are doing it. They are a resource that needs to be known by people. If you have a disabled person, know a disabled person, or are a disabled person, and you're looking for employment or ways to make your life better and engage, they are people that have resources to do that, and they are focused on doing that now. And so you're going to see a lot more of their stuff on our page. I'm making Jay, their local supervisor, a admin on the page so that he can keep people apprised of the events that they're going to be at.
Nice. Okay. Pretty cool.
Also, public health, and Deanne Jackson was there talking about addiction prevention, something that in this county we need to pay a lot more attention to. And we are working with her to try and determine how the neighborhood gardens would fall into supporting the addiction prevention. So we'll look for more of that on our page and on these podcasts as we move forward. I want to thank them for being there, and I want to thank Marwan specifically for being there, putting together a go bag and talking to people about how that pieces together. So I wanted to do a shout out for them, and a big shout out for Chef Chris Now, who again outdid himself with these magnificent soups he made. So, I can't hear that. So
All right. The audience can.
okay. Well then, good.
You knew what I was doing. We've been doing
Yeah.
this long enough. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't hear it. I know what's happening right now.
I do.
Awesome.
So it was a great event. But to go back to the theme of today's show, it's planting seeds. The reason we recognize people for going above and beyond and being human is because, unfortunately, it doesn't happen very often in our world of corporations, of planned obsolescence, of money over people every single time. When you find somebody who does the wonderful job moving forward, it's so much. They need recognition. They need support. We need to plant the seed that this is who we want to have doing business with us.
Mhm.
And so that was our goal for this and the goal moving forward. And it's appropriate that it's in February because February in the agricultural calendar is when you plant seeds and start the starts for your food that you're going to be planting in the ground in March and April.
You know, it's interesting. I was just telling someone before we went live that in a lot of ways, based on your statement, this is the counter narrative, right?
Mhm.
So if we're seeing things and we're talking about all the negativity that's in the world and in the community. There needs to be a counter to that. And we have the counter to that. All of us do. And that's just one great illustration of that.
Exactly so. I mean, the Bremerton Backpack Brigade has been working for a couple decades now, making sure that food insecurity in schools is addressed by giving children who are food insecure backpacks to have food so they can take it home and make sure they are eating eating food. And they are 100% community supported. They don't have grants from United Way or any of the other places. They get people donating food at markets on their food drives. It's amazing. South Kitsap Helpline, they got flooded in the rains. They basically lost a huge portion of the food that they had available, and they rallied with their volunteers, rallied with the community, and continued to feed people. I think they were down for less than a day when they were getting people food again. Food insecurity is a thing that's going to become more and more obvious to us in the near future.
Mhm.
So we need to celebrate the people who are above and beyond taking care of the community at every juncture, whether they're a for-profit business, whether they're a nonprofit, or whether they're a service provider in the community. As I spoke about the Kitsap Regional Library and about Kitsap Transit and the work that they do.
And if I may, because we're talking about food, let me add, watching the news today, and I'm a big proponent in boycotting and voting with your dollars, but that's not what this is about. what it is Wendy's has decided to now do fluctuating prices based on peak hours. So you know when you call an Uber and if it's a busy time, it's going to cost you more. Wendy's is now going to deploy that. And so Wendy's happens to be probably my favorite, of the fast food restaurants. And there's one that's getting ready to open here on Wheaton Way, and I was so excited for that. But I don't want to go at lunchtime and pay $12 for a burger that I was paying $6 for. And then if I go at a time when it's not busy, I pay that same $6 that I was paying before. And we have to do something else. And the bottom line is profit, profit, profit over people. And at the same time, you're going to see more automation. So they're going to raise prices and get rid of employees simultaneously. And it's not just Wendy's, but you're going to start seeing this across the board. Very frustrating. So we have to start coming up with a growing alternative for our food source.
And your thumbs up just came up. That was definitely not a thumbs up movement.
No, it's a thumbs down.
Yeah. So I want to read something. Is it raining in front of your monitor?
That's the thumbs down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. So I want to read a couple things that
this shifter does.
Yeah. That I came across. One is by, and you know that I have a love for Gene Roddenberry and the Star Trek because of what they stand for. And this is a quote from him talking about the development of the show. Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not just to tolerate, but to take special delight in differences in ideas, differences in people, If we cannot learn to actually enjoy those small differences, to take a positive delight in the small differences between our own kind here on this planet, then we do not deserve to go out into space and meet the diversity that is almost certainly there. So the first step in us expanding our humanity is to be embracing diversity, to learn that we have far more in common than we have differences, and that the differences are so small that we will find we spend far too much time on them. Now, on the same vein, this is a line from Jean-Luc Picard in TNG, I think, The Next Generation, that I think says what the point of view from the future is looking back at where we are now. The acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force of our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
Wouldn't that be something?
Well, and then today's word posted on the Kitsap Resiliency page is impossible.
Oh, hey, today's word.
Today's word is impossible. And the reason it's impossible, just impossible, because what was impossible in the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s, the 1900s is no longer impossible. Impossible is a moment in time when we are unable. It does not mean it cannot be done. And so we need to stop thinking about impossible, and we need to start thinking about how we get to a more embrace our humanity, embrace diversity, embrace a healthier outlook toward each other and toward our planet, and how to get to a place where wealth acquisition is no longer part of what we do, but our mission on Earth as human beings is to help grow ourselves and help grow each other.
Yeah.
So how can I help? And you know something? We're getting there. The whole core of New Amsterdam, a television show, was how can I help? That was the whole motto of the show, was how can I help? So as we move forward, we need to be thinking more about how can I help? And to get to the tree that is how can I help, we need to plant the seed today, and we need to nurture the tree today. We need to bring the branches of people in today to help grow that tree.
Mm-hmm.
And so today is all about seeds and planting seeds for our gardens, for our health, for our life. And that's what we need to be doing. So in the spirit of Stone Soup, we will be holding 2 more events in the next 2 months. One will be a gardening event where we will be, I am hopeful that we will have a very short, like 1 or 2 page document to hand out to people that will help them be successful in planting their seeds and growing some plants, whether they're herbs because you don't have room for a garden and just have or window herbs, or to actually plant a garden. We will be doing much more of the gardening aspect of things because that is the starting point toward getting to the other things. So let's plant the seeds and feed people.
Yeah. I said herbs and spices.
Yep. And maybe eventually we'll grow the right herbs and spices to do Kentucky Fried Chicken. No, wait.
Yeah, I actually like original recipes. So
yeah. Did I ever tell you the story of my trip to Virginia when I was like 9 years old?
no.
So my family had a business that went bankrupt, and they sent me to the East Coast. And at some point, they got everything together, figured things out, and joined me out there. And we drove to Holland, Virginia, which is a small town in Virginia, which is famous, by the way, for smoked hams. And we went there. My grandfather lived there. And so my father came in and was talking to grandfather. Says, "Take me to get really good Southern fried chicken." And so grandpa walked us down this road, up alleys, around, and I mean, it was just like this incredibly mile and a half long trip. And we walk out of this alley, and right in front of us is Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he said, "This is the best fried chicken in town." But this was also in 1967, 68, 67. So it was Colonel Sanders was fairly new, and they were pretty amazing. Unfortunately, I never did like fried chicken. I don't like it today. So, but they were serving roast beef sandwiches, and I had a roast beef sandwich.
Did you say 1967?
Yes.
Wow. That was not even a thought then.
Yep. And Colonel Sanders was still around.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but to get to the future we need to plant seeds to get people thinking differently. And we've done this, our organization in Kitsap County has done this through offering workshops, hosting events, having conversations with people, showing up every Sunday at Cups Cafe to answer questions, have discussions, meet new friends. Even when no one shows up, we are there every Sunday without fail.
You know, and I haven't spoke on this in a while, but one of the things that I believe I challenged people with last year at the beginning of the year was to challenge yourself to meet new people. You know, be intentional about that. And I probably exchanged 3 or 4 business cards at Stone Soup, but I know that I've met probably upwards of 50 people this year already. And, you know, the nature of what I do puts me, you know, in new spaces, which is great. But that's really powerful. And then you find different ways to collaborate and build together, and people get to know who you are and what's important to you and vice versa. So if you haven't done that, I challenge you.
Yeah, which goes back to our puzzle piece analogy, because all of us are puzzle pieces. And it's not until we connect those pieces that we find out what the future for humanity can look like.
Yeah.
And I just want to say again, and I can't say this enough, we have been taught, programmed, however you want to say it, brainwashed, to believe there's going to be a leader who's going to take us there. And history has shown us that that is absolutely not true. All of those movements following one leader are short-term movements, and short-term in the time of our history could be 100 years. But at the end of it, we're back where we began, and we aren't really moving farther along. Though that does not denigrate the great people who have been leaders, but we have to come together and determine this together. There isn't going to be one person who's going to tell us how to do it or show us the way, or do it. More importantly, the belief today seems they're going to do it for us, and that's just not the case.
Yeah,
never has been. So, and we can argue details all day long, and I'll probably agree with you whatever detail you come up with. In the spirit of time, you will see that was a moment in time and did not significantly change things. It's only when people come together that change happens and takes hold in the long term.
Mm.
So, as I say, today is all about planting seeds. I will say one story I wanted to share is that a young lady who was at Stone Soup,
Uh-huh.
who recently moved to the area. I was at Cups Cafe on a Saturday morning, stopping in quickly to grab some coffee on the way to another meeting I was doing. And she was in Cups Cafe with a friend of hers and said, "Yeah, we're going to go right across the street to Ballast Books," who was also a recipient of a recognition. And we're going to go down the list of people who were recognized and go to each of their businesses.
Nice. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, so planting seeds. That's what we all need to be doing. And planting seeds for positive things, not negative things. If you're planting a seed of hate or of distress, of fear, you're planting the wrong kind of seed. We already have fields sown with those kinds of seeds. We need to put the seeds in the ground that will feed us nutritionally, feed us emotionally, support us, and help us get beyond this crisis that we are in. And the time to the crisis we are in isn't going to be next year. It's going to be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and we'll start seeing progress. But we need to be planting the seeds today for that.
Yeah, it's important and understanding that some seeds you plant, you may never see germinate. That's just the truth of it. You may not ever see it become that plant or the mighty oak. Someone may have to pick up the mantle and continue the gardening of the seed that you plant, and that's okay. The big thing for me, where I get a lot of strength from, is yes, there is a lot of negativity in the world, but we are so powerful individually, and we have that ability to plant seeds, and it does take that. I don't say victim mentality, but oh, what do we do? Things are so bad. How are we going to change it? I'm just one person. These things are too big, and that seed is huge. And as you gather the tipping point, as you like to share with us, and we're planting all of these seeds, it becomes one plant into a garden, into a field, into a forest, and that's how it goes.
And all of the seeds we're planting are going to bring the future gardeners.
Mm.
And the gardeners are gardening with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one person, okay? Marwan's one person, but here together, we're two people. And the people who watch us become 5, 10, 15, 20 people. And as people engage with each other and engage with new ideas, those seeds are planted and we start toward a future. And Marwan and I have been doing this for 2 years now. And
Crazy.
we've been doing it every week for 2 years, and we have planted thousands and thousands of seeds, which are now germinating and growing. And over the next 2 years, you're going to see a lot of amazing things happen at GitHub. And I want to tell you right at this moment that that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning.
To that, it's another reason why it's important to document, to take pictures, because a lot of times you're in the moment, but you can't step outside of the moment and reflect on what's happening and just the power that's behind it. And it's the reason why I do kind of the G2 State of the Union at the end of the year, and I look back on the last year. This is what was going on. This is how we grew. These were the mistakes. These are the things that we were setting out to do, but things went a different way, right? Either because we tried it and it didn't work, or there were some external events that forced us into a different way, and just looking at those things, relationships that have been built, how we operate differently, how we've grown, and what we want to try to do for the next year. I think it's really powerful to do from an individual standpoint. I really love what you did for your birthday last year, where you were very introspective, but then you also asked your friends to give you and provide you the feedback externally, to kind of weigh in on the pieces that you can't see, right? To get around those biases or self-bias. So I think that's a powerful thing. And again, you will begin to see, I encourage people as they're trying to change something in their life, work on a degree, a certificate, personal, professional development, whatever it is, and they're starting off and it's just so daunting. It's like, oh, this is going to take years and years. And it's like, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then I revisit them in a couple months or even sometimes a couple weeks and I say, okay, look back, look at all those footprints in the sand. Look how far you've come already. And so don't so much focus on all the footsteps you have to take to get to your destination, but look at the progress you've already made. It's powerful.
Absolutely. And while you're thinking about that, you're thinking about the certificates and the degree and the job you're going to be going for, and all of those various things. Think about the people who've lost everything and how daunting their life is. I mean, I came up through the Jewish community, and what we used to talk about rabbis is rabbis would always tell you a story worse than yours, so that you can see what kind, how well you're doing, and stop focusing on the negative.
Yeah, well, it's perspective, right?
It is,
It
and
doesn't
help.
take anything away from your experience. It's
Nope.
just not to get so absorbed in it that you get analysis paralysis. You're stuck in uh, your pain. It's important to acknowledge it, address it. You know, take a look at it, investigate it, but don't sit and stew in it. That's
Right.
not.
And that's when you look to one of your friends who may be part of our project. They'll
Mhm.
say, "How can I help? Tell me
Yeah.
about what's going on. Let me know how I can help lift you up." And when we start looking at that with everybody, it's going to be an amazing world. When you have more people, I mean, one person says, "How can I help?" 50 people say, "How can I help?" What kind of world would that look like? 100 people say, "How can I help?" And everybody does a little bit, and everybody gets more, which was kind of the whole point of Stone Soup. Everybody gives a little, and everybody gets much more.
When you said what would it look like if one person in 50 had a picture of the minions?
How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? Wait, I need the wrong kind of goggles. Hold on.
uh,
But yeah, it's is that world impossible, Marwan? Is a world where people help each other, and we leave wealth acquisition behind and help each other live forward? Is that world impossible?
no, I don't think it is. And to be clear, obviously we need money to live. We can't live off of no money. So I think a lot of times people get caught up in oh, you're anti-capitalist or you're anti this or you're anti that, and money's evil, money's the root of all evil. And it's a tool just like everything else, and we have to have it. But there's a morality in a way to conduct yourself and put it in its right perspective, so we're living healthy and positive lives.
Well, absolutely, and I'd like to remind everybody that that golden age that we keep hearing about happened because we were taxing the hell out of corporations and the wealthy post World War II. And those taxes didn't start getting repealed until the 1960s. And at that point, our economy has been degrading ever since. So we were happiest when everybody was sharing more of their wealth into the progress of the whole, as opposed to the progress of themselves. And now we have exactly the opposite. I think we can inarguably say there are a lot of people out there that have a lot of money and keep acquiring more and more and more that are only really about themselves.
I don't know if it's a lie or not, but I listen to, read articles, watch podcasts with millionaires and billionaires, and many of them say that they actually wouldn't mind being taxed more if they felt the money was being used in the right way. So the question is what way do they believe the money should be used to where they would be uh, okay with being taxed more? I
Okay,
think
so the caveat on that is how the money's being used. It's actually being written by their publicists, but there are people like Warren Buffett and Nick Hanauer over in Seattle say tax me more.
Mhm.
They don't put a caveat on it. They say tax us more. We need to be taxed. And there's actually, I think I read an article recently, 1,200 billionaires, millionaires, high millionaires, billionaires are saying, you need to tax us more.
Well, I think that the issue becomes when you're seeing the misuse of funds, when you're watching, politicians get rich, get wealthy off of, the taxes and the misappropriation of funds. I think that's where the issue comes in. So I don't even feel like tax me more as a blanket statement when I see how the money is currently being used.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I also hear a lot of vague statements, not necessarily what you're saying, but I hear a lot of this vague statements, and that's the messaging that constantly pounds to us, saying, "Well, we shouldn't tax more because we don't use the money well," and it's a very conservative right wing messaging machine that pumps that stuff out. I said, "Okay, so tell me, where is the corruption, and how are people getting rid? I hear the talking points, but I want the source material. Tell me how it's happening." And if we know how it's happening, you can actually give me more than just bullshit. Then we can actually address it because we see what's happening and we can start, working on that issue. But that's not happens. It's just talking points and people buying into the talking points and repeating the talking points, and we end up with not doing what needs to be done to get the resources in. And let me just tell you, a lot of the reasons you're seeing struggling happening in your city and your county is because there's far less money coming down from the federal government than there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because the tax base has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and more has been thrown on the middle class, which is disappearing. And, if you want to know details on this, come see me on a Sunday and let's start talking, and I will get you source material to understand what's been going on and how it's been going on. But the other stuff, that's a lot of a lot of talking points that don't have any substance behind them.
Well,
I'm not saying that there isn't corruption. And my favorite thing, a $700 toilet seat for the Navy. All of these things. There's not that it's not happening, but the fact is, if we start looking at it, knowing how it's happened, we can actually address that. And there are some agencies within the federal government that do a damn good job of addressing that once they know it's existing.
who's that?
A government accounting, GAO, government accounting organization, actually does a pretty good job of auditing. If Congress wasn't managing themselves, we might see more of that. We have a lot of agencies, and the reason we're not hearing about things being cleaned up is because Congress, our wonderful Congress who's representing us, has been defunding organizations like the EPA and the oversight agencies like the SEC for the last 40 years and probably longer. They basically are taking the teeth out of them by not giving them enough resources. I mean, the IRS, quite honestly, and everybody here just cringed, and I'm sorry about that. The IRS hasn't had a significant computer upgrade or tech upgrade in probably 10 years or longer.
Yeah, but didn't he just hire 85,000 IRS agents?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that their databases and upgrades are there because it's in the investors in Congress, and there's no other way I can really say it, investors in Congress' best interest to have the IRS be toothless and unable to audit them.
No, I think both things can be true simultaneously, right? Putting in where you're going to tax, Cash App and Venmos over $600, that you're going to start taxing gig workers and make them regular employees is very destructive when people are just trying to do what they can to survive.
So I just want to remind you, I said that the more and more of the taxation is being pushed down on us, the middle in the middle class, and fewer to the corporations in the upper class, and that's by plan, so that they can look like they're doing something, and people say, "Well, tax those gig workers because I'm not one." But the corporations and the very, very wealthy have been basically given a free ride the entire time.
Yeah, I would love to see our system change where if you are asked a question, you must answer the question. You can't dodge. You can't. I mean, there's one thing of saying I need to get more information, but you need to be honest. And if you can't do that, then you can't sit in a seat at any level of government.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But again, to get there, we have to plant seeds here.
I mean, the whole thing is you might be wrong. I can respect that you're wrong. You might think, hey, let's try this. This might work out well, and you try it and it doesn't work. I would respect that more than waffling and dodging and not trying something or creating the committee for the committee to study the committee if it's a good idea to have the committee to try to do the thing that you're trying to do in the first place. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but a lot of it just becomes a dodge to avoid doing anything, because politicians find out early that if they actually do something, they might piss somebody off and they won't get reelected.
Yeah,
And
you might, but you know what? You probably will make more of we the people happy, and those are the voters, and they'll keep you in. So, do you want to get rich? And
well, the trouble is, and I hate to say this, but it's far more complicated than that because of the media machines.
No, you're right. You're right. But we have to start somewhere, right?
We do, and we have to start locally, and we have to start in our own backyards, in our own neighborhoods, which will lead to us working with our local cities and city councils. And if you don't like what the city's doing to support you, understand a lot of the reason we have so much development in Kitsap County, good, bad, or indifferent, is because it's one of the only reliable sources of income for the city. So it's what they focus on to fund services for you.
And there's so many problems in that, so frustrating. One of the things that we do here on the Conduit is we do broadcast out city council. I think it's important to empower people through information. We know it's hard for you to get down to city council every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and sit through a 3 to 4 hour meeting, sometimes 6 if it's really a barn burner. But this Saturday they had their 2-year goals, and we broadcasted that on the Conduit as well. And there were a lot of frustrating things in there where, to me, the hyper focus was, bike lanes and traffic easements and parks and whatnot. But we have these other glaring issues that need to be addressed. And you talk the word of the day, impossible. It really kind of takes me back to that. It's very frustrating to hear from our local government. That's not what we do, right? That's not the job of, the city council or the city or the mayor or whatnot. And it's like, well, whose job is it? If you're the city manager, if we've hired you to make these changes and you make laws and you make policy, then if it's something that you don't do, then maybe you need to do it, even if it's temporary, to make change. I would like to see
the thing is you need to read the charter, and more importantly, they need to read the charter. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I hear over and over again, is it doesn't seem to be the people in Congress actually have read the Constitution or understand the Constitution. If you hear some of what they say, you know for a fact that they haven't read the Constitution or they're intentionally lying about it. But in our own city, there's a city charter that says this is what the job is. And by the way, the mayor's job is to be the city manager. Mm-hmm. The mayor's job, that's his job. You're not electing a mayor to be political head of the city council. You're electing our mayor in Bremerton, to be the city manager, to manage the city. The city council's job is far broader than they actually allow themselves to think about it. Yes. And they can do a lot of things. They can do all kinds of stuff once they have the will. How does the city council get a will in our country? Let me think about this for a minute. I seem to remember a civics class somewhere in they don't teach civics anymore. But in my high school, we taught a civics class, and the will of the people. The will of the people tell the city council what needs to be done, and the city council's job is to enact that. So we have rents that are out of control in this county and in the state. And I'm going to say something that I read somewhere, but I don't have the data right in front of me, is that there is a caveat in the state of Washington's Constitution that prevents rent control. And I have not read it, so I don't know the breadth of it. But in this world Kitsap County of skyrocketing rents and people losing their homes. Can we say homeless? Because they can no longer afford to pay the rents because there aren't enough jobs in Kitsap County, and there aren't enough jobs anywhere to pay high enough for the people wanting to make more and more money to be sated.
Mhm.
But we need to be able to approach somewhere. So if we can't have rent control, first of all, I think there should be a movement to amend the Constitution in Washington State to take that out, because I think rent control is now being seen as very important. But I think what we need to do is zone in the city, saying you cannot build here if the rents are above this.
Well, the problem is and what they were saying on Saturday is that the developers will not build unless they get these really nice tax breaks, and they want to build what they want to build. And so in there, the requirement would be to make 20% affordable. So if you create a 5-unit dwelling, one dwelling is affordable. The rest
Yep.
don't have to be,
That's
and that
called.
doesn't address the issue.
Can I tell you the word that goes along with that, since we're talking about words of the day?
Go ahead.
That's called extortion. We won't build. Well, you know something? We have a lot of builders here that don't get used to build those houses. And maybe we need to start finding a way to fund them to build the homes we need to have here.
And that's the part that's frustrating, right? Because what we hear back is it's impossible. The city doesn't do this. They won't build unless you do this, right?
Well, then we need city council people.
So we need to do something different, right?
Yep.
We are operating in these parameters, and we're watching the world change. We're watching our city change. Well, let's just focus on the city. We're watching our city change, and we're saying, well, we can't. There's nothing we can do. We just have to operate within this. Giving them the tax break, having that requirement, it's like it needs to be flipped on its head. 80% of those units should be affordable, right? It should be an honor for you to be able to build here. Maybe there needs to be a cap on ROI, return on investment. You shouldn't have, these exponential returns on investment at the expense of the people. Again, I'm all for capitalism, but I'm not for capitalism in Maslow's hierarchy at that bottom piece of that basic need,
So
the house and the healthcare.
I will modify that statement for you.
Sure.
We have unregulated capitalism where the capitalists are allowed to extort what they want from everybody. What we need is a regulated capitalism, and that is the government's job to do.
Which is interesting when you think about it. Like, what would happen if we were cut off from others and we were forced to do it ourselves? We'd have to roll up our sleeves, go and chop the wood and frame the house and
Grow neighborhood gardens. Don't forget that.
And don't forget what?
Growing neighborhood gardens so we can feed ourselves.
We'd have to do all those things ourselves. So why not incentivize, right? Why not invest in ourselves, right? Folks that need work, that need livable wages, give them the training, let them build the housing units that we need.
Yep.
We have land.
And and I have to interject here something I've been pushing the last 3 weeks, and we're probably going to do an entire show on it, is thinking about future proofing. We need to build differently than we are building today. We cannot continue to build stick houses with expensive heating that's inefficient. We need to look at what the future is going to bring. With climate change changing everything from extreme highs to extreme lows, we need and you can't. Okay, and someone's going to come back and say, "But look at this winter; it's been so mild." This is a moment in time. It is not what's going to be happening. We need to start thinking about thermal mass. We need to think about passive solar. We need to think about creating an infrastructure here in Kitsap County where if we do get cut off, we still have livability. So if we're going to train people, we need to rethink how we do homes anyhow to make them more livable.
Well, you know what? Shout out to Jane Rebelowski. If you haven't watched it, she came on to The Conduit last week, and she'll be coming on once a month. I think that's important, right? I lost to her running for city council, So it's not a situation where like I'm not going to have her on and we're not going to have a conversation. She is the city council person for this district, for this neighborhood. And so we need to have a relationship and be able to have two-way dialogue. And she came on and she shared a lot of information. That's why I'm able to talk more articulate than maybe I would have been 2 weeks ago about the direction they're going in, and informed us that they were doing their 2-year goal planning on Saturday. And so I encourage people to tune into that. Submit your questions. You can submit them here on Tipping Points. We'll send them over to Jane. You can counsel, send it straight to Jane at City Council. She has monthly meetings. And the reason why I'm saying that is, again, it is we the people. And the change is going to happen by people bringing their voice. And the most voices typically wins. And right now, our voice isn't being heard. And I say ours is our collective tipping points and puzzle pieces. Our collective voice isn't being heard. That we can do in 2024. And that might seem like a really small and insignificant thing, but I promise you that is probably the biggest thing that we can do is bring our voice, is literally showing up in that way.
The decisions are made by those who show up.
Yeah, really. So much so. And they reflect that. If you listen to a city council meeting, they'll say, hey, I heard from my constituents, we need to have, a bike lane, or we need, traffic easement over here, or we need XYZ, we need this park, or we need this cleaned up, right? It's the people that said, don't feel like you're a squeaky wheel. Don't feel like you're complaining. Just state what's going on. Hey, my street is dark. I need a light here, whatever the case may be. Just activate in that way. And if we do it together, we'll see the change. Because I think we can even change that, right? It should be an honor for you to build something that is going to stand in this city for 60, 70, 80 years. And we flip it on its head. And someone has to do it. At some point, we have to say it's not impossible. We're going to try. We're going to do something else.
And it is the will of the people. Bring your puzzle piece.
AI, it's here.
Yeah, it's here. So bring your puzzle piece and come join us on Sunday. Talk to us. Watch this show. Comment on it. We will happily engage on the show. We will engage on Sunday mornings at the Cups Cafe for the Pacific. We can bring our pieces to the table and start listening to each other and talking to each other and finding out the things we have in common. And then we take that to the city council with 100 people and they will listen. And we become the squeaky wheel that makes the change. And we do it in a polite and engaged way. So yeah, you want a different future? Show up.
Yeah. For sure.
So yeah.
Something I was trying to find to share. I don't think I can find it fast enough. Oh, it's just a great saying. She's got too many on here. I can't find it.
So while he's looking at that, I want you guys to here's a challenge for you. I want you to get up and I want you to look in the mirror in the morning before you brush your teeth or after you brush your teeth. And I want you to look yourself in the eye and I want you to say, how can I help? How can I help? And I want you to say it to yourself because you can help yourself by asking yourself that question. Lots of thoughts will come to your head and that will help you clarify how to make the next step sometimes. So I challenge you to ask yourself, how can I help? And I challenge you that once a week, ask somebody else, how can I help you? And that's a game changer right there. It's planting a seed. It's reprogramming you to engage more with people around you. And it will start reprogramming other people to engage with their community. And this is how you plant seeds that change the future. And again, we are looking, and you're going to see a wanted poster come up on Kitsap Resiliency Project page probably next week. It's going to say, wanted, people who want to change the world, who want to engage with their neighbors, people who are willing to learn a different way of connecting. And we want you to come to us and talk to us. And we will schedule training sessions and we will schedule workshops and we will do everything we can to support you engaging with your neighborhood and starting a garden together and then going from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to share this.
Okay.
Okay, that's better. I think that might be okay. All right. Hold on, I just need to read this really quick. No, maybe I shouldn't share that. I just, it's a chat, so I don't know if I have permission to share that, and it's sensitive. But here was the profits by companies in 2023. Shout out to Maria Fergus. Heinz 8.9 billion, Exxon 9.1, Delta 4.6, Amazon almost 10 billion, Apple 97 billion, Tesla 13 billion, Verizon 78 billion, Albertsons 21 billion. All these billions, right? Now here it's hashtag tax the rich. Starbucks made 24 billion in profits in 2023, which it could give each of its 400,000 employees a $11,000 raise, and it would still have 11 billion in profit. The reason why I brought this up is even if we looked at it as a one-time thing, we can end homelessness literally overnight, 1 year, right? The excess in that. Say, hey, you can take a one-time hit, you're going to have 2 billion in profits, or you're going to take a 20%, just make it standardized no matter what your overage is. And you could solve a lot of the ills here in America.
So post World War II.
I mean, we'd like to change it so
Yeah.
it's not excessive like this, but just one hit like that and go back and we could solve so many things.
Going back to the golden age, post World War II, we were taxing corporations up to 90% of their profits. Now that only profits, not their costs or their operating costs or anything. And same with with folks of great wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. If we do a 20% tax across the board, that's more than most of them are paying anyhow. But why don't we look at it this way? Just a thought while you were talking is we were able to raise the taxes because we were fighting a war and we needed to gear up our manufacturing. That turned into being able to build the entire infrastructure of the United States, which is failing now because there's no money to support it. Why don't we do a war on poverty? And the war on poverty is going to be taxed to the way that the World War II was, maybe half of what World War II taxation was. And we use that money to fix the infrastructure, to create meaningful jobs for people, and to end homelessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my thought is if you made 10 billion in profit, maybe you only keep 2 billion for that year and the 8 billion goes, right?
Or maybe just pay $2 billion a year every year toward taxes for fixing the problems.
I don't think that's enough. Again, that it's so excessive, right? And there's things. Many of these companies have created such ridiculous amounts of profit because either they haven't been paying their fair share, and they've been taking advantage of folks.
So I want to go back really quickly to a show about 10 shows ago. We were talking about how scientists are talking about how we are using resources on this planet like we have 2.5 planets.
Yeah.
Now those resources aren't being renewed. Those aren't being recycled. They are lost into landfill and lost into waste streams, lost into the ocean depths, and destroying our environment. And this is not you and I doing this. This is the corporations doing this with planned obsolescence, which has been in gear for 40 years. And where every time, you can't buy anything now Terry's one of our board members. Marwan knows her very well. She's also my partner. She just had her espresso machine blow up yesterday, and totally break. She's had that for 38 years, and it's worked every day for 38 years.
Wow.
Yeah. My car is a 2004 car, runs brilliantly. I bought a new car, made it about 4 years before I had to replace it.
Mm.
Planned obsolescence is about making a lot of money for people by making things poorly. And the waste of those things go into the waste streams, and we do not recycle. So we are continuing to use resources like we have more than one planet, and all based on I need to make money now, and to hell with the future. I won't be here for it. What kind of thinking is that? I
You know
mean,
what's
anybody who's had a
insidious?
child cannot think that way, or should
Yeah.
not be thinking that way.
You know what's insidious is they make us complicit when they add, our retirement investments into that, right?
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, if you want to have a chance at maybe retiring or having some extra money, you're gonna have to also put your investments here. So that it's man, the system is so broken.
Yeah, it is.
So slick too. That's slick.
Yeah, I know, and it's been going on for a long time, and it keeps getting refined. And when the information age happened, it accelerated.
Mhm.
And the reason we're seeing the problems today and are so aware of them and overwhelmed by them is because the information age has brought them into our viewpoint on almost a daily basis. So their messaging, the messaging to continue the process is constant, but this visual of the problems created by it are also constant. So it's time to plant some seeds, time to come together, time to find some clarity, and time to take some action. And I think we're at our time, so I'm gonna.
Well, I was going to say the first chance that you can take some action is tonight. You go watch City Council here on the Conduit. On Sunday, you can have a dirty chai. Man, I wish they would make like have our own little signature drinks. The purple dirty chai.
What
But
would they put in grape juice?
grape juice. Join us for coffee and conversation on Sunday, 10 a.m. at Cups Cafe on 4th and Pacific. Parking downtown is free on the weekends. Really great conversation. The fireplace isn't on right now, so that's kind of sad. I love that fireplace. So
Reach over and push the button. That's all you have
oh,
to do.
you know all I need to do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if I have permission to do that, but I had a couple meetings in there the last break before I was sick, and it's like, oh, I wish the fireplace was on, but it's a great meeting place. They have the nice little sofas. You can sit up high. I believe they have Wi-Fi in there.
Yes, they do.
There's outlets. And great staff in there. Good place to have a meeting or just chill out with the book. You can sit in the windowsill if you can get it. But come in and meet Mark and Terry and everyone else that shows up there on Sundays and have that conversation and start making that difference. We're going into March. It's not too late. The only way it's too late is if you don't start. So
Yep.
right on time. Let's see you
It
Sunday.
is. And keep tuned because we've got a lot of garden news coming up in the near future. And we are working on an event that will be happening in late April that I think everyone will be pretty excited about. So it's not stone soup, but it's going to be pretty good.
I know. Well, I know I am. And I think what would be awesome is we should have crop for second annual Stone Soup, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, we will be working for that, and we will be moving forward in that. Also, I wanted to point out the Cups Cafe is a recipient of recognition as a community champion. So definitely support them.
Yeah.
And right across the hall from them is Ballast Books. Independent bookstores need to be supported because they are the last bastion of the ability to get thoughts from a broad range of people as opposed to what is shoved down your throat at mass bookstores.
There's a record shop in there too. So
Yep, there is
cool.
indeed. It's a cool little place.
Head on in there.
Yeah, and then there's Ashley's Pub downstairs, which is a little unique. I don't know if you've ever been in there, Marwan, but Ashley's Pub has bookshelves full of games, and the whole point is you go down there and grab a beer and a game and sit down with your friends and play a game while you're at the pub.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No,
it is true community.
Okay.
So yeah, Ashley's Pub is very cool. So that corner of 4th and Pacific has got a lot of stuff going on. There are some great businesses in there and around there. Collective Visions, a artist collective, is right across the street. And there is Blue Sky Hobbies down the street. It's a great place. You should walk around there.
Fritz is down there. Best
Mhm.
French fries in town. Good burger.
So, yep.
folks.
And so be part of the tipping point. Be a part of the puzzle. Bring your pieces. Come meet with us. Come talk to us. And let's change the world together.
And the word of the day is impossible. Let's eradicate that word.
Yeah. So mission, eradicate impossible.
I like it. All right. Well, for Mark Boatwright Frost, I am Marwan Cameron. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. You're watching the Conduit Podcast Network. We'll be back at 5:30 for City Council. We hope you will join us then.
Gather together, grow together. We provide transportation, affordable transportation